Welcome back. My guest today is Mike Wilkerson, author and founder of Stonewall Advisors. Thanks for joining me. Trump
Always
had
a
a
pleasure.
hero's welcome on Wall Street this week, and it sounded like a Trump rally, but it was really the floor of the exchange. He came by to open the New York Stock Exchange. Watch the reception he got.
Trump, we love you, Trump! 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 Thank you. We appreciate you so much. We need you.
What's up, guys? It's 9:48. Shouldn't you be making money?
JD, all our guys, Bill, I mean, this is it.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Is anybody who's our guy, you're our guy. This is it. You are our guy.
That's better than some presidents get, which is rotten eggs. But the enthusiasm seems to be really extraordinary, at least on Wall Street. And I'm wondering to what extent this is going to permeate nationally.
Dick, we're watching something extraordinary. You know that 4 years ago, I began to warn that we were in a national winter is coming moment between inflation, lockdowns, increasing geopolitical risk, and the risk of a Biden victory and what that would do for the economy. Well, we've been living in the darkness and coldness of winter for 4 years. And I really believe that what you're observing and what you're seeing here is an acknowledgement that while it's still maybe towards the end of winter, springtime is on its way. And that is a national sentiment. And it's not just hopium. No, it is a real appreciation that there's
Hopium,
a policy
I love that.
change, a tidal wave of policy changes. Who's suffered the most, Dick, over these last few years? It's been working class Americans. It's been the middle class American who have seen their purchasing power eviscerated through inflation. You mentioned energy policy as a big driver of this. Americans realize that Trump, among other things, will unleash our domestic production, energy production capabilities. That feeds everything in the economy. It drives inflation up and it drives inflation down when our resources are allowed to operate freely as they once were under the previous administration.
Well, I think that fans my optimism. You recall in Candide, the novel written by Voltaire, there's a character named Pangloss who keeps walking around saying, this is the best of all possible worlds. And I don't want to fall victim to Panglossian optimism, but there really is a lot going on. You wonder if this country really is calming down after 4 to 8 years of unbelievable strife and tension. Maybe they're just exhausted.
I think there's a degree of exhaustion. I think you're absolutely right that people of all walks of life woke up to what was happening. You know better than anybody the shift that occurred from Democrats moving to independent or moving to the Republican Party, in any case, whatever the party affiliation was, deciding to vote for Trump, to vote for something that would spark a real change. Let's not be too Panglossian. President Trump will be inheriting several difficult challenges. Inflation is still running high. The debt is way too high. The deficit is way too high. And think about this. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are heading up, faces real challenges. So they've committed to cutting $2 trillion of expenses from the deficit. That will have a chilling effect. And Elon Musk has said so himself that there will be some pain that has to go around. But this is a short-term necessity in order to really create the ground for long-term prosperity. So could we see a recessionary or challenging period in the first 6 to 12 months? Absolutely. But I do believe going into the end of next year, end of 2025 and 2026, we will be in a new springtime for America as a nation and for her people.
I have to admit that when you showed up on TV for my interview, I was hoping you didn't have your earmuffs and muffler on, but because you feel that the springtime is coming.
Well, I am in Florida, Dick, so I did have one benefit there, although it's a chilly 65 degrees. It's been wonderful.
I feel sorry for you. But do you think that the partisan divide on optimism is going to close? And you think that, I mean, I really wonder if Trump can capitalize on all this to really expand his base dramatically, become kind of an Eisenhower.
You know, this sort of optimism and hope in a better future, it is contagious. It does spread. And this can be a self-fulfilling prophecy that we can drive more and more change. What I believe you see in the polls, especially around the, let's call it the hardcore base of the Democratic Party, is a version of Trump derangement syndrome. They've been taught for so long that if Trump wins, all hell will break loose and terrible things will happen. And the parade of horribles has only just begun. Over time, as we see the economy getting better, I think more and more of those people will start to become aware, alive to what is actually happening in the economy. And this is a moment where we could see reconciliation of some very deep divides in our nation as we all begin to pull in the same direction.
I think the expectations about Trump are really buoying the potential for a recovery here because of his image. Because people think it's so bad, it's going to be so terrible, at least Democrats do, that when it's not, I think there'll be a sigh of relief. And I also think that he's accomplished tremendous radical changes in his cabinet so far. Putting Kennedy at HHS is a stroke of absolute genius because it opens a pool of voters that have never paid attention to the Republicans who worry about genetic engineering and the toxic wastes and pesticides. And really what's going on now is people are seeing it, all their nightmares come true, and they're not bad. They're pretty good.
I think it's very true. Consider that in 2016, one could argue that he was a bit rushed in the appointments that he had to make. This time around, he's had 4, if not 8 years to be very thoughtful about who he wants alongside and what he wants to accomplish. And I would say it's not just the form of, it's the substance. The policies are deep, the policies are rich, covering everything from trade to domestic manufacturing to crypto and AI. This time, as regrettable as the last 4 years have been, did provide real opportunity to be very thoughtful and to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think that it is incredible how, as an insurgent candidate, after all, not an incumbent running for re-election, Trump in the campaign laid out a tremendous 360-degree vision about the changes he'd make. There were these detailed position papers, and he waded right into a bunch of controversies and didn't have to backtrack on anything. And let's don't forget that he had an opponent who, by contrast, was pretty bad. But I'm on the threshold now of believing that we really are maybe in a transformative time. There have been periods in our national history, like after the Civil War in the North and other eras, where the country kind of came together and said stuff is working out really well. And we may be in the middle of one of those.
I believe we may be, and I think it's never been more important. You know, he's starting with a big challenge, which we mentioned, which is the 36+ trillion of debt. Two things have to happen. One, reducing the deficit, but also beginning to whittle away at that. There's a couple ways that can happen. One is more inflation, which we don't want, and the other is a productivity miracle, that we can actually get real after-tax GDP growing again. I believe that Trump has, this administration has potential like we've never seen before for a true revolution, as we saw after the Civil War you mentioned, after World War II, arguably in the 90s with the development of the internet and related technologies. We're at another moment where we have groundbreaking potential in AI, in energy technology, in nuclear, so many things that if we can get the policies right, we could see, again, a true productive miracle in this country over the next 4 or 5 years.
Bless you, Mike Wilkerson.